The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf.
We've extended that surface copper zone with samples that surface up to 5% copper. We've extended that surface copper zone now over 2 kilometers, 2.2 kilometers, at surface. So that's very exciting in itself. And we've completed a full VTEM airborne survey, which is showing some very nice conductivity targets.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Lew Lawrick. He's Magna Terra Minerals President and CEO. Lew, very good to meet you. For viewers new to Magna Terra, how would you sum up the company's strategy and what sets it apart from other explorers?
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate the opportunity to be on with you today. Magna Terra is unique in the sense that we have kind of a dual structure. Some view us as kind of a prospect generator, which we do have in our model. We have a very deep portfolio of projects that we can't advance all of them at the same time on limited capital. So we have projects that we have prioritized that we believe are our best bang for our buck for our shareholders, that we will advance ourselves. And then within that portfolio, we also have projects that are very, very excellent projects that we are looking for partners to help us advance. So we've got a two-pronged strategy, which gives us multiple project opportunities for discovery catalysts, either by ourselves or by our partners.
Well, touching on a couple of those projects, Lew, and where you're seeing bang for your buck, you've just expanded the copper mineralization zone at the Humber Copper-Cobalt Project in Newfoundland. What makes this discovery stand out? What's next for that project?
Well, I thank you for asking that. That's something we're very excited about. This is something we put together, kind of conceptually, our technical teams using regional lake sediment data from the Newfoundland Geological Survey and some of the other historical data that we were able to compile. And we looked at this region that is in Western Newfoundland that has never been explored for sediment-hosted copper deposits. And we thought it geologically, age of the rocks, et cetera, it really fit the model for something and like that. And so we acquired a very large land package, basically almost 50,000 hectares at this point in that region. And literally second day on the project, we had a walk-up discovery, which is pretty damned exciting for a junior. And now we've extended that surface copper zone with samples that surface up to 5% copper. We've extended that surface copper zone now over 2 kilometers, 2.2 kilometers, at surface. So that's very exciting in itself. And we've completed a full VTEM airborne survey, which is showing some very nice conductivity targets. So the follow-up then is to go and surface sample along these conductive targets. We're doing lake sediment, stream and lake sediment sampling right now, or stream sediment sampling right now. So we're still in the early stages, but what's really exciting is that we've made a copper discovery, very early stage.
Well, turning to Rocky Brook in New Brunswick, you've used AI and geophysical data to identify new targets. How's that shaping your exploration plans there?
Well, in the Bathurst camp, which is of New Brunswick, where Rocky Brook is located, I mean, it's a very historic, Brownsfield camp. Multiple VMS mines have been put into production over the years there. There's reams and reams and reams of data, and one of the reasons to use AI was really more as an assistance in processing that data. What would have taken us, probably 2 or 3 man years to compile all of that data took us, really less than a couple of weeks with the assistance of artificial intelligence modeling. So what this has done is it's developed a number of high priority targets, through the analysis of the databases. We had also acquired some historic geophysical data that we've had reprocessed that that as well has developed, allowed us to develop additional targets. So now we've got multiple high priority targets to follow up on. Next stage for us right now is we are in the field currently with two teams doing follow-up geochemical sampling, as well as we're about to start a large trenching program on one of these key targets, and should have results from that later this fall.
In Argentina, you recently signed a deal with Andean Metals on the Luna Roja project. How does that partnership fit into your approach of creating value without shareholder dilution?
Well, it's really an excellent model for us. We've been able to do that not just in Argentina, but with some of our projects in Atlantic Canada that are what we would, I wouldn't call them non-core, but they're projects that we're not capable of moving forward ourselves. And so what that has done for us is it's created a what I would call a secondary trough of value for ourselves and our shareholders by allowing us to participate, not only continue to participate in the project through the shares that we receive as payment in those option payments, but also through some royalties and things of that nature that come along with those deals. And it's a model that's allowed us to, during more difficult market times than we have today, maintain a very tight capital structure, while still having capital from these deals to put towards our priority projects. So it's a model that we continue to utilize, and we will continue to utilize going forward. One of the things that we're very good at, and I think is where we're getting a recognition in the marketplace, is we have a very strong and deep technical team, and project identification is something that we've been very good at. We've identified projects that are early stage but have a lot of upside. And so we'll continue to sort of use this model to help us not only advance our priority projects, but look at bringing in new projects, look at bringing in partners to advance those projects. Again, the whole idea here is to use a sports analogy, to have multiple shots on goal for our shareholders.
Lew, looking ahead, what should your investors be looking out for over the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, again, we've got lots going on. We've got we are advancing our own projects as we've just discussed here at Humber and at Rocky Brook. Humber will be advancing through the earlier stage, generative stages here, into target development, and so we're well into that phase. Rocky Brook, similarly, we're advancing the targeting efforts there, and we should be in a position to possibly drill one or more of those targets early in the new year. On our Great Northern project, which is optioned to a company called Gold Hunter, we are anticipating receipt of a large option payment by June 2026, almost $5 million in cash and marketable securities. Gold Hunter as well is in the midst of a financing initiative where they will be drilling Great Northern sometime later this year or early in 2026. So as the largest shareholder of Great Northern, we will be participating in any upside that they have success-wise on that project. And then, as you've just mentioned, the partnership with Andean, they're going to be moving Luna Roja forward in Argentina. And we've got multiple companies currently in our data rooms looking at our projects that are available for option. And there's a possibility, that we may transact on one or more of those projects in the coming weeks and months as well. So lots of opportunities for value creation here.
Definitely lots of irons in the fire. Lew, thank you very much for the introduction to the company today.
I appreciate the opportunity, Stephen. Thank you.
Lew Lawrick is President and CEO of Magna Terra Minerals.
The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf. It is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, an offer, or a solicitation to buy or sell any securities. Viewers should conduct their own research and consult a qualified financial advisor before making investment decisions. The views expressed are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Proactive Group Holdings, trading as Proactive Investors or its affiliates. No responsibility is accepted for any loss arising from reliance on the information presented.